When Jonah's warning reached the king of Nineveh, he rose from his throne, took off his royal robes, covered himself with sackcloth, and sat down in the dust. This is the proclamation he issued in Nineveh. By the decree of the king and his nobles, do not let people or animals, herds or flocks taste anything. Do not let them eat or drink, but let people and animals be covered with sackcloth. Let everyone call urgently on God. Let them give up their evil ways and their violence. Who knows? God may yet relent and with compassion turn from its fierce anger so that we will not perish. When God saw what they did and how they turned from the evil ways, he relented and did not bring on them the destruction he had threatened. Yay, the city saved, right? Go Nineveh. They did it. They repented. They left their evil ways. Jonah preached. He gave an awesome message, and it's a huge win for the kingdom, right? Like Nineveh, just like a little Bible history, is like part of the Assyrian Empire, and these are the guys that are going to like take over Israel in a couple decades, and like definitely big evil city, not good. So super awesome that they were saved. But it's not that simple. If you want to look at verse 4, 4, this is Jonah preaching. 40 more days and Nineveh will be overthrown. That's it. That's all Jonah said. But you're like, okay, like, wow, God, like, you really worked through Jonah. And he did. Like, God did an awesome job through Jonah. But it's like, Jonah just spent 3 days in a fish. He just prayed, like, God, you're my God. I'm going to do everything I can for you. And that's all he can do. Like, that's it. 5 words, in Hebrew at least. I don't think that's, like, the best. Like, I think if I spent 3 days in a fish, like, I'd have a little more than, like, hey, you guys are going to be overthrown in a couple days. Like, Jonah didn't even mention who God is. He didn't mention why they're going to be overthrown. He didn't mention how to get rid of or get out of that being overthrown. He's just like, you guys are going to get overthrown. Like, don't do that. This thing might die, so it might just be the spirit that leads me soon. And so it's like, why is Jonah, why only 5 words? Like, obviously there's something like a little deeper rooted in Jonah's heart if he's just gonna say 5 words. But despite all of this, like, this little bit of salt that Jonah provided, just these 5 words, like, city will be overthrown in 40 days. Like, those 5 words were enough to save an entire city. And I think that should be encouraging to us. Despite, like, Jonah's hard heart, whatever's going on inside, like, it still was enough. I think, is anyone here Sunday? For Sunday's sort of recap? Yeah. Taylor gave, like, an awesome story of, like, how her best friends met her on, like, the day after the worst day of her life. And it was just like that little bit of love, like, was enough for Taylor to be here today. She was on the verge of suicide and suicidal thoughts, but now she's here, like, serving us and being an awesome light for us. And, like, if it wasn't for those friends being just a little bit of salt, a little bit of light, like, she wouldn't be here today. And I think the same can be said for any of us. Like, all it might take is just a smile, or like a hey, how are you? Or a hug, or just something so small can, like, change so much in someone's life. I remember when I was in preschool. It's like one of, like, maybe second memory ever in my life. First day of preschool.
After the
after coming out of the
oh my god.
But I walked in. But I walk into preschool, first day ever of real school, I guess, and I see all the kids, like, playing on, like, that road map carpet thing, you know? My whole room, actually, my childhood room was that carpet, all of it. But I walk in, and they're all playing. And this is my first day. Like, I have no idea, like, who any of these people are. And so instead of joining them on the circle, I go over here and I start playing with the toys in the bucket to the side. And I'm just like, I'm not going to play with those kids. I don't know them. I pick up like the miner from Toy Story 2, remember? I forget his name. Is he just the miner? I don't know. The prospector, yeah. It's that guy. And so I'm just like fiddling with him, and one of the kids comes over. He's like, "Hey, you should come play with us." I'm like, "Okay." And so I get up, I leave Prospector behind, and I go play with him. And it's simple as that. Like, I probably wouldn't be here today if he didn't do that.
Oh my God.
And so it was just that little bit of salt, that little bit of light that he provided me was enough to like get me out of my comfort zone and get me a friend. Like, it's as simple and as little as that. And even though Jonah was like, "I don't want to do this, but I will do it," like a little salt can save like a whole city in anybody's life, anywhere. But despite this for Jonah, despite the city being saved, there's still something wrong in Jonah's heart. And so, it died.
Satan, try to stop.
I got a Bible. We'll see what the Lord does.
Don't give in.
Mm-hmm.
Let me take some water now.
Okay, I'm gonna take a break too. Drink the water.
All right.
Intermission.
Jonah chapter 4, verse 1. You guys ready? It's about to get wild.
I'm ready.
You got this, Thomas.
So Jonah just came off of this, like, Nineveh was saved, and God relented, but there's still another chapter. So Jonah's here, he is. Okay. Chapter 4, verse 1. But to Jonah, this seemed very wrong, and he became angry. He prayed to the Lord, "Isn't this what I said, Lord, when I was still at home? That is what I tried to forestall by fleeing to Tarshish. I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sending calamity. Now, Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live." And so the truth comes out. Like, Jonah didn't want to go to Tarshish because he was being selfish. He's like, "God, I knew you were going to be loving. I knew you were going to be gracious. And I didn't want them to receive that." And it's like, who is Jonah to say that? Like, why does Jonah get to make the call on who gets to be saved here or not? And so, point 3 on why Jonah is the biggest scumbag of the Bible. He's so angry, he's so selfish, he's like, "It'd be better for me to die. Like, just kill me, God. Like, I don't want to be a part of your goodness." Like, okay. And so, continue. Verse 4. But the Lord replied, "Is it right for you to be angry?" Jonah had gone out there and sat down in a place east of the city. There he made himself a shelter, sat in its shade, and waited to see what would happen to the city. Then the Lord provided a leafy plant and made it grow up over Jonah to give shade for his head to ease his discomfort. And Jonah was very happy about the plant. But at dawn the next day, God provided a worm, which chewed the plant so that it withered. When the sun rose, God provided a scorching east wind, and the sun blazed on Jonah's head so that he grew faint. He wanted to die, and said, "It would be better for me to die than to live." But God said to Jonah, "Is it right for you to be angry about the plant?" "It is," he said, "and I'm so angry I wish I were dead."
Oh my gosh.
But the Lord said, "You've been concerned about this plant, though you did not tend it or make it grow. It sprang up overnight and died overnight. And should I not have concern for the great city of Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left, and also many animals?" And that's it. We don't hear what, not for the sermon, guys. Don't get ahead of yourself. But for Jonah, yeah, like, that's it. We don't hear what Jonah said in response. We don't know if Jonah's heart was changed. We don't know anything what happened next. We don't even know if Jonah listened. Like, maybe he's like, "I'm dead now." I don't know. And I don't think we need to know. Because it's not about Jonah. It was never about Jonah. It never will be about Jonah, because it was always about God, right? God's the main character. God was the main character throughout this entire book. Like, Jonah's selfishness was hogging the entire book, but in the background, God was working every chapter. chapter 1, you had those sailors, and they didn't know the Lord. They had their other gods, but God still saved them. They eventually cried out to the Lord our God, and God's mercy came upon them out of their humility. Last chapter, this whole city of Nineveh came to the Lord after Jonah's stupid little 5-word sermon that did nothing. God still saved the city. God still cared enough to show mercy for these people that hated him. And I think that's powerful. I think this whole book of Jonah is trying to just ask us one question. And I don't think Jonah got the answer to it. I think it blew over his head because he was so worried about himself and his enemies. And that question is, are you okay that God loves your enemies? Jonah had the enemies of Nineveh, these terrible, terrible people that he didn't like, but God still loved them, and God still made a way for him. And I think that's powerful because we were once his enemies. I have one more scripture. You don't have to go there, but if you want, you can. Romans 5, 8 through 10. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Since we have now been justified by his blood, how much more shall we be saved from God's wrath through him? For if while we were God's enemies, we were reconciled to him through the death of his Son, how much more, having been reconciled, shall we be saved through his life? At one point or another, everyone in this room was an enemy of God. We all hated God at some point. Maybe you still do. And that's okay, because God still loves you. He showed his mercy for you. He died for you. He doesn't care that you're his enemy because he just wants you so bad. Like, Jesus died on the cross for you. Like, we don't understand that sacrifice because it just goes, we hear it so many times that Jesus died for you. Like, you're good. But it's like there's so much more to that. Like, Jesus reconciled you. You were his enemy. You hated Jesus, but because of his death, now you can become Jesus' friend. And that's what Jonah just doesn't understand. He's so much more focused on this, like a stupid plan over the city of Nineveh. And, like, isn't that us, though? Like, isn't that us worried about so much other, like, non-important things that we forget about the big vision and dream of God? And I think that's sad. I think the Bible isn't about Christianity isn't about being a passive character. I think picture this battlefield, and it's like desolate. There's like fire everywhere, and there's brimstone. It's like really gray, and there's two sides fighting. It's like a medieval fight. It's not like modern warfare. And one side is shooting arrows of lust and greed and hate and envy and like anything evil, just shooting them and flying them over this way. But this side is shooting arrows of love and compassion and mercy and grace, and it's just this constant fight over and over and over. And we're all there. We're all soldiers on the battlefield. And if we're soldiers, we're fighting. We're not standing. We're not kind of twiddling in the dirt like, oh look, an arrow. None of that. Bless you. It's this great battle going on, and you're in the middle of it, and there's arrows flying. Like, maybe you get hit with one. Maybe you get hit with like the arrow of lust, and you struggle. Or maybe you get hit with this arrow of gluttony, and like it's a bad weekend for you. Like too much ice cream or something.
Been there.
But you have an arrow too. You have a bow and arrow that you can fire back. You're not just standing around doing nothing. You're firing this arrow of love, this arrow of compassion out to people that are struggling. And I think that's our lives. Like, we're not passively standing by. We are fighting a battle every day. And I hope you realize that. I hope reading Jonah helps you see that. If you're going to act selfish, if you're going to do it on your own terms, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to end up in a fish maybe. I don't know. It happens.
It happens.
maybe a dolphin. But in all seriousness, I hope that you see that God's mercy is worth selling out for because it can move cities. It can change so much. Yeah, I think. Dear God, thank you so much for today. Thank you for these high schoolers, and just thank you for the opportunity to speak for them, and thank them for having me. I pray that they would know you more, and I pray that whatever selfish sort of ambition is in their heart, that they would cast off. I pray that they would see the battle raging around them, that there is so much more going on, and that they can make a difference. It's not about them, it's about you, but I pray that they know that they have an important role to play in the story, and that they need to be in the story. So God, thank you for all you've done. Please just bless the rest of this night, bless the rest of our week, and yeah, amen.
Amen.
Yeah!
James, zoom out. What are you doing?